Hi, my name is Kristen Anderson. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm here at the Ashland Library. I'm the Ashland branch manager, and this is our newest episode of Read This. And because of the season it is, and because of what we've been talking about on our readers advisory discussions, we're going to be doing witchy books. This is the season of the witch, and you'll probably see different lists coming out from us and things like that that tie into creepy witchy books. And when I was working with staff talking about different books about witches, I was able to break them down into several different categories. And what started the whole conversation is one of my peers had just finished reading The Blackbird Oracle by Deborah Harkness, which is a newer one. It is a continuation of the what's called the All Souls trilogy. It starts with the discovery of witches, super popular, been around for a while. And she was looking for more books that kind of fit that mood. And so we started with this really great crowdsourced list. And then I've kind of broken them down into different categories. But it all started with All Souls. One thing I've noticed in the witchy category is we have some that are kind of creepy, modern, a little bit of humor, and I've got a long list. So what I'm going to do is probably rattle off titles, but also every once in a while break out and give you a little bit of a synopsis of some of them, but not all of them. So in that category, I was pulling up a newer one called The Witches of Bolinas by Nicole J. Jones. A book called Vinco, which has been around for a couple years by Sherry Dimeline. And Vinco is kind of this, if you look at it, you'll see the title, it's Coven inverted. And it's this idea of witches forming a company. And that's kind of at the core of the story, but it's witches working in our modern world. There's also Cackle by Rachel Harrison, and that one is also a modern setting with kind of a modern New Yorker moving into small town New England and making friends with someone who turns out to be a witch, even though she's really nice to her. Everyone else in the neighborhood is a little bit less cool about some of her shenanigans, and before the main character realizes what's going on, she's in a little too deep. So those are kind of those modern, not super scary, just a little bit scary, witches doing witchy things with a little bit of humor baked in. And then you've got kind of the current cozy trend, and some of these tend to be funny. Some of them have a little bit of historical in them, but they're all witchy. There's one called The Cottage Around the Corner that just came out, or is just about to come out. I don't think we even have our copies yet, by Destiny Soria. There's also a series called The Dangerous Damsels. This one has a historical setting. The first one in that series is The Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels. And in that we've got a group of historical pirates and a group of historical witches all being very prim and proper while kind of fighting with each other. And it's lovely and hilarious, and if it sounds a little ridiculous, it is a little bit ridiculous, but it's also fun. Or you've got kind of your witchy romances, and one of the ones that I've heard staff talking about a lot is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. And it's supposed to be super fun, couple steamy scenes, but for the most part, just good fun romance. You can usually spot the ones that are more fun. They tend to have covers that tell you, and you're probably seeing the covers next to my head, so you probably are getting the idea that they're more cartoony, cleaner lines, less moody than what you see when you look at some of the other witchy covers. Then you've got the retellings, and we did a little bit with retellings last month, but I'm going to run through some. Some of them you're going to see duplicates of at this point, but not too much. We've got A Sorceress Comes to Call, which is a new one from T. Kingfisher. Purports to be a Goose Girl retelling. Isn't exactly a Goose Girl retelling, but is kind of the witch has some genuinely terrifying powers, which can be, she can make people obedient, which basically means that people become her puppets, and that gets kind of creepy and scary really fast. These tend to have a little bit more fear factor in them. They tend to be a little bit more atmospheric and kind of take you into those retelling situations. The Book of Gothel is a Rapunzel retelling by Mary McMinn, told from the point of view of the person who imprisons Rapunzel, obviously the witch. We've got The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichek. That is a Loki, and so it's a retelling. It's Norse mythology, though. Another obvious retelling is Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West by Gregory Maguire. You know it now more because of the musical that uses those characters and some of those plot points, but the book itself has been around for a while and has actually spawned many, many sequels in that imagined Oz world. This one I talked about last time too, The Scandalous Confessions of Lydia Bennet Witch. Now you've got a retelling that doesn't actually have a witch in the source material, but does in fact have a witch in this retelling, and that one is adorable. And the other one that I talked about last time that I hadn't read yet was Lady Macbeth. I've now read it. Lady Macbeth by Ava Reed, which is obviously witchy because we've got a play that's the source material that has multiple witches in it. I really enjoyed how she handled the witches. It kind of gives Bluebeard vibes. But the thing that I found a little bit disappointing about this one, and if you're like me and you like Lady Macbeth in part because she's a more mature character, then having a teenage Lady Macbeth may not work for you. So there are things about it that worked, things about it that didn't, but definitely a witchy read, and the witches are used effectively in that retelling. Then you've got kind of more moody fantasy and or historical that are kind of set in their own kind of world. You've got the Year of Witching by Alexis Henderson, and also Wayward by Amelia Hart, which is told in multiple time periods. And then you start getting into, in the US, you get into kind of ones that have New England feels to them because of the Salem witch trials and all of that. And one of the classics in that area is Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman, which has also spawned many sequels and prequels, and all of them that I have read are wonderful and good and highly recommend. The Once and Future Witches, which is historical feeling, alternate history, but also suffragists and witches, and huge fun. One of my favorites from a couple of years ago by Alex Harrow. And another one with that New England feel is We Ride Upon Sticks by Quan Barry, which is a Crucible retelling, but set in the 80s. So you've got, high school lacrosse players using witchy powers to do the things that high school kids would have used their witchy powers for in the 80s. And Hour of the Witch by Chris Bojalian, and that is also kind of a New England-y feeling one. Another atmospheric one, Circe by Madeline Miller, which is like Greek mythology witch, but still witch. And then a couple that are truly billed as being scary, because I wanted to get some scary ones in here. And for those, Slewfoot, A Tale of Bewitchery by Brahm, and A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay were ones that I thought would be worth mentioning in the kind of more horror category. And for nonfiction about witches, In Defense of Witches, The Legacy of the Witch Hunts and Why Women Are Still on Trial by Mona Chalet is a really interesting read about witches throughout history. If you go to our databases site and you pick novelist, you can go and you can do all sort of searches. And what I did was I did a subject search on witches. And then I narrowed it down by kind of more recent titles. So I used PubDate as a refining tool. And then I went over and looked along the left-hand side of the screen where you have all kinds of filters for things like mood and setting and genre and tone. And if you go into those, it gives you only a limited number of words that are that would actually give you search results. So it's really easy to use, but you can find creepy, you can find rom-com, you can find immersive, you can find atmospheric, you can find like words along that side that might help you find books that fit the tone that you're looking for. It also does a good job with read-alikes. So if my colleague who had just finished the Deborah Harkness book she wanted to ask staff because she knew that staff would give her good answers, but you can also, if you don't have like an entire staff of librarians at your disposal, you can also, which you all do because you live in Jackson County, so you can just come in and talk to us. But if that doesn't feel like what you want to do in the moment, novelists can also do that for you. And it has great read-alike sections where you can like pick up a specific title and find read-alikes. It'll like generate read-alikes for you to a specific title, so you don't have to start with a broad subject like witches. You could just be like, I want more books like Deborah Harkness, and it will help you find that. And that is what I've got for this month. I hope you found something that you wanted to read here, and we'll see you next month. Thanks.